Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. We are continuing with our review of the players' performances throughout last season, the 24-25 season. We've already done the defence, so if you haven't watched that one, go and check that one out as well. We are now discussing the performance of Everton's midfield from last season. And let's begin with James Garner. 21 appearances in the Premier League last season. He started 17 games. No goals, 1 assist. How do you think he did overall?
What was it? It was January that he really come back. Obviously came on, didn't he, for Mangala as he was getting injured. So it was just felt like just like a straight swap. I mean, the numbers aren't particularly good, are they? I know he's not seen as an attacking player, but for me, I think in that case, in that way, I think he should be getting more. I think his set pieces have been dreadful. I think that was something we were told he was good at. They've been dreadful. I think it's a position we can clearly improve on. So I think for Everton to improve as a team, for me, James Garner has to become more of a squad player. Or he has to lift himself up and start having a bit more pressure put on him. He hasn't had that much pressure because obviously when Mangala went out injured, it was a season-ending injury. He came in, and to be fair, when he came in, he done fine. He come in and he crossed over, and he was just quite steady. But I think his performances are steady, but they're not of a level where that are going to drive Everton on. Now, so we need to get someone in that role who'll push us and push him as well. You know, and I think ultimately, if he doesn't, then he is just going to become a squad player, because I don't think he's got enough about in his all-round game. I think he's like nice and tidy, and he wins tackles, and he's got a bit of aggression, but there has to be so much more about his whole game. Also on the ball, I think he leaves me a little bit disappointed as well. There was a nice little spell when Bethel started scoring the goals, and he was putting the balls around the back, but that dried up really quickly as well. And it just feels like there's a player in there that's got a little bit more, but you just don't see it enough. I don't think personally, anyway.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. I think he does a decent enough job in there. I think the creativity side of it, you know, he's very good at Forest, certainly from dead balls. And doesn't matter whether it's the Championship or the Premier League, if you're putting good balls into good areas, you're doing it, doesn't matter who the opposition is. Yes, we need to be more aggressive attacking those balls that he put in, but he just hasn't been able to certainly find that, and you've seen that. You know, the 1 assist I think he's got was that through ball to Beto against Leicester, which was an absolutely brilliant pass. I haven't seen enough of that. I think you're right, he's neat and tidy. He does a decent job in there. But consistency and then going up levels now is what he's got to find, and I think he needs to produce more. We can't have a thing where it's just the midfielder and I just sit here and it doesn't matter if I don't score an assist because I'm putting these tackles in. Got to be so much better. He's got to drive himself on, and Everton need better players in there as well. And it is, I think, where we are now, it'll be a case of, can we get better in? And then can the players who are there get up to that level? And James Garner's still young enough to be able to do, but he's been here a few seasons now, and he's had injuries in each of those seasons. He's got to get himself a good pre-season, get on the ball, and really, you know, be ready to go on day one, and hopefully he'll improve. I think he's been all right. He's been, you know, done decent enough job, but I think we're looking for all of our midfield to up their game. I think, and he's just one of many. SofaScore actually scored them quite high, though, to be fair, 6.96 across the season. So, you know, not bad. Abdoulaye Doucoure, we've got him in the midfield zone because he has played in it, and we know he's leaving the football club in a few weeks on expiration of his contract. Obviously, friend of the show. We had him in here, and he did reiterate on and off camera how much he wanted to remain at Everton, but it hasn't happened, and he's moving on. 33 appearances for Everton in the Premier League, started 31 of those games. 3 goals and 2 assists. This is something you said all season, is that he's just going to walk out the door, but he plays most of our games. How do you think he's done over the season?
Mixed bag again. I think he's I think he does stuff that maybe people don't always value. I also think his role has changed a few times. He actually said to us, didn't he, that it doesn't fit maybe what he's been playing as to. He's more of a box-to-box midfielder. Yeah. I thought again when Moyes came in, I thought his press was really important, how high he pressed and how that allowed us to stay up the pitch and create more chances and score more goals. And that was a massive part. I think that dropped off a little bit in the whole team once we settled down maybe a little bit as a team under Moyes. But I thought that press was really important. But as I said, I would like to have kept them because I just think anyone who starts for your team, who walks out the door, you want them to be going more onto the bench rather than just walking out. But he's such a weird player, such an enigma, because we all saw it when he's on the ball. He leaves a lot to be desired. He really did, and it frustrates people, especially if stuff's breaking down when he's on the ball. But also though, like when Beto was in the team, he was pushing higher up the pitch to be that physical buffer when Beto wasn't maybe ready for that yet. And I think that was massively important as well. And that helped us pick up points early on as well. So I think he had his uses. I think he was a useful squad player. I think he would have continued to be a useful squad player. I think if Everton have had more options, he wouldn't have played. Maybe if Carlos Alcaraz didn't have that clause in his contract, maybe he would have played more. Who knows? I think he's had an all-round okay season. I'd like to have seen him score more goals. I think that was disappointing that he didn't score more goals, because a lot of people ask, what does he do when he's not scoring goals? But I think that's not necessarily a fair assessment at times, because I do think that this maybe can't be put into figures, but I do think the hard work that he put into so many games, getting around the pitch, just keeping that press going, and then like moments like the win at Forest, giving us that win on the day, showing that importance. I mean, I think his time at Everton, I thought he was a really handy player, but maybe he never truly got to play properly in a proper system to suit him.
Yeah, again, I think it's a fair assessment. I think I said to him in the interview, I think he was better further back, where he can break up play, and because of he does get around the pitch really well, and he does break a lot of things up. And I think arguably if they've had a more creative player ahead of him, you could just give the ball to, I think he'd have been valued even more. But I think he was here for 5 seasons, paid 20 million quid for him. I think we got really good value for money out of him. Scored such an important goal against Bournemouth, of course, to keep us up. He'd already scored 2 key goals at Brighton earlier in that run, which helped us get into that position. Absolutely vital. He come up with some big goals. He walks out the door being Everton's latest ever winning goal in the Premier League and Everton's fastest ever Premier League goal. He got both of them. And I'm a bit like you. I think if he'd have stayed, I think David Moyes would have used him next season as well. But it wasn't to be, and he's had a solid season, got goals, and he will be missed because he starts every week. So it's up to other people now. It's up to the recruitment team, David Moyes, to bring in someone who plays well, and it's up to Alcaraz to step up to that plate. But he ended up with a 6.76 rating in midfield, which is not bad, I suppose. Moving on, Idrissa Gueye, who I think was brilliant, and it's really interesting when you see something like SofaScore with their overall ratings to what I'd, because I'd have Garner much higher than they've got him, but they assess everything, and like you've just said with Abdoulaye Doucoure, sometimes the stuff that people do really well isn't necessarily the stuff that goes on quantifiable, and you go, that's an extra half a point for that or whatever. Anyone who watched the FA Cup final will tell you that with Adam Wharton, who apparently was magnificent, but he had about 8 touches of the ball. But Idrissa Gueye, 37 appearances, 35 starts, no goals, 3 assists. But it's obviously a hell of a lot more. Yeah. Worth a lot more to Everton than what that is. And David Moyes continuing to play and wants to keep him, it looks like. We haven't had the confirmation, but it looks like he's staying at Everton, which is a huge relief. How do you think Idrissa did?
He was magnificent. I think it might have been his best overall season for Everton, maybe. Maybe, you know, I think he's had I remember when he first came in his first season, the first time, for half a season he was brilliant, and then he went to the African Nations and he never quite found that rhythm again. And then his last season at Everton, the second half of the season, was absolutely magnificent. I think this may have been his most consistent season, where maybe like last season you could poke holes in it and go, oh, he's starting to get tired, or he isn't doing this, or he isn't doing that, or I mean, let's get it right. Those tights have done the job.
Revitalised them.
But I just think that I think he's so comfortable. He's not playing those silly passes maybe that people would call him out for. You know, he's just played that 5 yard and it's led to them. Only he's been doing that. So that means there's no real reasons to poke holes in his performance. And I just think that he's so good at slowing the game down and finding time whilst others are rushing around. I love it's just like little things about his game. He does that thing where he lets the ball come across his body and turns at the same time, and it just gives them the room to get away. You know, he's someone who's always been really good at maybe picking up a yellow card when it's needed and then being able to live on that yellow card for the rest of the game. I think he's always been brilliant. And I just think he's a fantastic all-round player, and I think he's probably our player of the season, I would imagine. I know he was the club player of the year and stuff, so players player of the year, but I imagine he is our player of the year, because I just think he's got a quiet leadership about him as well. You know, he doesn't demand the armband or anything like that, but you can tell he's got the respect of everybody, and the foreign players who come in probably seek him out first and all those kind of things. And I just think he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And you can tell that, you know, he's been at PSG, won trophies, played with Messi, played with Mbappe, and yeah, he's got this weird kindred love for Everton, which is dead weird. Like, you know, I mean, he just seems to really love the place, and that hopefully leads him on to signing a new contract, which we're all desperate for him to do.
Yeah, he's my player of the season. I think he's been outstanding all season. I think there's no signs of him slowing down. He's so valuable to us, and he's the one who, coming into this summer, we're worried about, because I think, you know, Doucoure, yeah, we're looking at other people who never. I just don't think anyone does Idrissa's job like Idrissa, and yeah, the manager's got to be looking for the next Idrissa. But I just think he's been brilliant, and he's so good on the ball, and there's the misnomer that he gives the ball away a lot when you actually look at his numbers, and he's posting 93-94% averages with passing. That doesn't suggest he gives the ball away too often. So he's been brilliant for us. I think he's had a great season, and he's played of the year comfortably for me, played of the year. Obviously it's a shout for Tarkowski and a shout for Jordan Pickford as well, but overall it's Idrissa Gueye for me, and he's had a brilliant season. So Sofa score had him at 7.01. So yeah, excellent. And obviously if he had added a couple of goals to that like he did last season, his rating would have been even higher, because obviously you get bigger points for that. But you know, we showed last season he got a couple of key goals, didn't he? Forest at home, Brentford, the winner, didn't he? So we'd like him to add. If he's missed a couple of sitters this season, that must be said, but absolutely brilliant. Tim Iroegbunam, who made 18 Premier League appearances for Everton, but only started 5 games. He had no goals but 1 vital assist, which was the Merseyside derby for James Tarkowski. Come in a bit of a PSR.
Skullduggery.
Well, you know, a mutually beneficial deal. Let's saw Lewis Dobbin go to Aston Villa and Tim Iroegbunam come to Everton. And I actually thought, you know, obviously the manager had to play him because of injuries. I don't think Sean Dyche would have had him anywhere near it at the start. But Iroegbunam come in, and until he got injured in a, you know, unconfirmed wrestling match with James Garner, he both went out the team injured at the time. Now, until he got injured, I thought he was probably up there with one of Everton's best players, and it was only the opening sort of half a dozen games or so. But he looked really, certainly at Goodison, running with the ball. He showed loads of potential. Not quite sure when he come back after the injury he ever got back up to that.
Yeah.
He only had cameo appearances. He had one start against Arsenal and he struggled a little bit, in all fairness, coming back into the team that day. But he just looked like a player who'd been missing for 4 or 5 months and was thrown back in against a good side. But I definitely think there's work to be done with him. But I also think there's big potential. I think he's powerful. I think he travels really well with the ball. And now it's on the coaches to get that next bit out of him. But, you know, for 10 million quid, I think he's been a really good signing. And I think the potential's he's got to do it now, don't get me wrong. But I think he's had a decent enough start to his Everton career.
Yeah, I think when he came in, there was literally nobody. James Garner was injured. Mangala wasn't in the building yet. And we were stretched to the absolute limit. So he did get him on. And I thought, for you know, at the first few games, he looked like he had a few nice touches, but also we were conceding a lot of goals. So you can look at it both ways. I remember seeing pre-season, and he was a bonus of pre-season. I think everyone looked at him and went, "Oh, actually, we look like we've got a half-decent player here." But something I picked up on quite early on was I just thought it was like, and I've said this loads of times, so forgive me for repeating myself, but it was like he had to beat the first person and then the pitch would open up for him, but he couldn't ever quite see that first person right in front of him. Like, so it's like, so he's running with the ball, and I still think that's a part of his game. Is he's like, if he could get his head up quicker and either knock it off and get it back or just beat that first man, everything would open up, because he wants to go through the lines. I don't think playing as a deep midfielder actually suits him. I actually think where Doucoure played last season is what will suit him. But I think he's just got to find a level of consistency. And this was what we were saying before about James Garner is, if you find that level, even if that level's not like a top level, but if you find that level and you give the manager, then you know that you're going to give him the same performance every single week. And I don't think you can say that with him because he's a young player. So obviously when he got the injury, he come back, and then he come on against Wolves, and he was poor because he was so erratic. He kept on winning the ball and then giving it straight away, and it's like the team were half going and you've given it away. And then against Arsenal when he came on, he started, didn't he? And it was the same. He kept on just giving the ball away cheaply, and it's like, you can't have that. You've got to have that. You can't say it about like James Garner, can you? James Garner doesn't give the ball away cheaply. You can maybe look at him and go, well, what does he do? But he doesn't give the ball away. And I think that's the first thing about it. Be brave, but don't be giving the ball away in stupid areas.
I think he had a couple of good performances later on. Not when he come on a show.
Fulham he was great.
Fulham he was good.
But that's what I'm saying. It's about getting that level, isn't it? And you're only going to get that level maybe by playing or going on loan or whatever. I don't know where Everton would have to bring in like maybe 2 or 3 for them to go on loan, because at the end of the season, you know, during the season, most of the time after, you know, once we got players back, we did have 6, so it was like 3 for 3 most of the time. Obviously, we had Southampton gone out, made it less, but I just think you've got to find that level where the manager can trust you week in and week out. And I don't think he was quite there, and I think he lost the... Well, Mangala came in, didn't he? And I think it was like the Leicester game, wasn't it? The 1-1 where he swapped them over, and then suddenly we started... Dyche made a decision early on when we were conceding goals. It was like, we're going to stop conceding goals, even if it means that we're not going to score too many goals. And so he tightened up the midfield.
But Iroegbunam did get injured after that.
No, I'm saying we stopped. But he'd already made that decision, though. He got injured training, didn't he, I think?
On just the Monday after.
So he looked like he'd already made that decision. And it was a case of we have to stop. And he went with experience. So what Iroegbunam's next role is to just to find that consistency. Find that consistency and build on it and get your basic game and then work on it. And I'd say what I do think he's got attributes. I think get your head up early and break the lines. And I think we've got a half decent player there.
Big pre-season. I think he needs important pre-season for him. Orel Mangala, someone you meant.
What was his rating?
Sorry, SofaScore had him at 6.63.
Okay.
So
their ratings are more obscure than mine.
Yeah, solid, but they're like how they score a point. Anyway, that's what they had them. Orel Mangala, 19 appearances in the Premier League for Everton, started 14 of them. scored 1 goal, no assists, and was doing quite well until putting his foot down at Brighton near the end of what was a really good performance, and the lad hit him, didn't he?
Yeah, and from behind, wasn't he?
Yeah, and all the impact went over his knee, and that was him done, an ACL, and he was out for the season, and that was like literally the last day in January, I think it was, or very much the end of January, and he was done. But how do you think he did? Obviously came in on loan from Lyon, when John Textor was trying to give us all of their players to help us, and to sweeten the deal. I thought he'd done all right on Gala. I thought he was getting better and better as the weeks went on.
I think he's got that level of consistency that we just talked about. I think that's what he gave us. He gave us a level of consistency. I couldn't understand why he was sitting on the bench in like November and December. It was crazy. He was sitting on the bench, and it was just like, we need more. And I think he had more. And I think he came into the team then, and it for a few weeks, I think it improved the midfield in general. We weren't as sloppy, because I do think he's got that level of consistency. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's like an amazing player. I'm not like dying for him to come back, especially with the injury now. But I do think it was really unlucky for him that, and really unfortunate that he picked up that injury just at that time, because obviously it was creating another headache, and it was lucky that James Garner was just crossing over and ready to come back. Otherwise it would have left us with a big hole in our midfield. Moyes would have sorted it. But it meant, I thought he was fine. I thought again he was another one. He's another like sort of 6 and a bit out of 10 player most weeks, and maybe it was just about time to start looking for a bit more out of him, get more goals or assists or whatever. But again, just another sort of steady. I think those kind of players having that level are the reason when people go, Everton squad, they're terrible, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, no, because we've got loads of run-of-the-mill Premier League players who don't make that many silly mistakes. Okay, they do lack quality and lack maybe that little X factor, but they also aren't rash, and they also don't give the ball away, and they also don't play a million passes and then play one back to the goalkeeper and it gets intercepted and the opposition score like the teams who got relegated do. They're all of a professional level where it's just like, yeah, you'll finish mid-table. And he's another one of those players.
Yeah, I mean, I remember he came on at Villa, and I looked terrified watching him. He just looked miles off it, off it. And in the Carabao Cup, he'd been poor as well. But then he did get in. He played well at Leicester, a game he should have won. He played really well there, and then he got better and better. He was neat and tidy. He enabled Garner to go pinch the ball. Idrissa Gueye do was, putting fires out while he just sat in, and like the shot, which I liked about him, scored a goal against Wolves, of course, and a 4-0 win. And then I think Dyche changed it. He was out the team again, and he was back in the team. And then obviously David Moyes come in, and he was in the side, and like I said, he played well against Villa, well against Spurs, and then went to Brighton and was having a good game and got the injury, and it was a real shame because we were looking nice and settled, looking like we knew what we were doing, and it's a shame for him because I think it would have given Everton a headache this summer. I think if he'd have carried on sort of the way he was going, it would have given David Moyes a decision to make, and Everton, I know, seeing a lot of people go, just get him back, I want him back and all, and it's like, we can't be paying 25-30 million pounds for someone whose knee that's happened to the knee, and we don't know how they're going to come back, and then he's not going to be back anyway till October, November, December time. They're saying that we just couldn't take the chance, but he was a good example of a good level loan player.
Yeah, and a kind of lone player there where you can get them straight in. What was interesting about that Leicester game is he went into centre midfield with Doucoure, so they'd stripped Idrissa and Iroegbunam went out of that game, so. And
they both done really well.
And they done well, and that was...
Doucoure, like you said before, that's his best role anyway. Overall, SofaScore give Mangala 6.89. So he was, out of the midfield, as we've said so far, he was Everton's third highest rated. So, good display. Charlie Alcaraz came in on loan in January. 16 appearances in the Premier League, 7 starts, ended up with 2 goals and 3 assists from 7 starts. But, you know, we do it overall. So we got 5 goal involvements in 16 games. Sometimes he played on the left.
Yeah.
He played in the Doucoure role, where I think he's probably best. Moyes just moved him around a little bit. He was versatile. Some of them games were late subs as well, so the appearances were really not loads. But a player who I really like, I thought got better and better. The price was so appealing. I think the age, he's 22, got goal in him. He's tenacious. South American, I don't think you can really go wrong with South American players in terms of knowing what they're going to give you every game. And I just think he fits so well. And his header at Newcastle did just remind me of a Tim Cahill type goal. And even just the way he headed it, he just looked like a Cahill. And in that role, I could see him adding loads of goals and loads of assists. And I think he's good on the back, you know, Fulham away, watching him just turn that game in our favour. And I think he's a cracking little footballer. I think Everton have done really well to sign him. So that's me.
I think the moment he came on and he hit that post with the free kick and took it straight away, went, I'm having this, and smashed it into the post, everyone just went, wow. Because not only did he take it, it was like the fact that he took it, it was like
it's almost his first touch.
Pulled rank and took the free kick. He's got so much, he believes in himself, and I think that's where everyone was like, okay, we might have a player here. We bet we'd better if it had gone in, but we, you know, would have, you know, and then obviously following week, obviously we go to Palace. He starts the game because obviously Doucoure gets suspended in the derby in the weekend. You know, he's got the assist and then he scores the winning goal, and then straight away you think, well, this is a lad who's already played in the Premier League, it makes sense. And then it was just a case of like how many games he was going to play, and you know, of course there was a few ups and downs and people are looking for him to do, then the bar is so high, is can he do it every week? And he tailed off a little bit and then come back, and who knows what would have happened if there hadn't been that clause. Would he have played all the games? Who knows? But you know, Moyes has had a good look at him, and you know, he topped it off by coming on at Fulham, being great, and then starting the game at Newcastle, scoring the winning goal. Could have had a couple in that game, and rightly the club have signed him up, and you know, he's done, the deal's done.
He started at Fulham. He just when he moved them in from the wing.
When he comes central, he
turned because he'd already almost he created a chance for Harris.
Because he brought in Gion and McNeil, didn't he? So when he put him central, so he started him in those 2 games, and it's been done now, and that's the best thing, is that we're sitting here, we're not going, oh, wonderful sign him or not. It's done, and he's an Everton player. And
what did you make of the contract, Len? Don't think we really spoke about the contract.
I've no idea about it. I've no idea why you would make that decision.
For a 20.
I don't know why you'd make that decision. It's 3 years, isn't it? Essentially,
according to South American press, and I think Paddy Boylan reported this in the Athletic, it's 2 with the option of a year. Now that might be David Moyes going, I'm still not 100%.
Earn
it now. We do well. We will give you that. We've got you.
Maybe it was something to do. I don't know. Maybe it was something to do with what was in the
original,
the clause or something. Maybe it was something to do with the clause.
Maybe.
And that's what Everton. But Everton now have got the option in a year's time. They can go, you've been amazing, lad. We're signing you another year.
A better one.
You know. Or in 2 years' time, they go, you know, we're extending it for another year, or
plus 3
or whatever. So it is what it is. Who knows why they've made the decision, but they've made it.
Well, I mean, a couple of people have said to me, it's actually a brilliant decision by Everton, because Everton are in control of the whole thing to make that decision. If he looks like he's going to go one way, Everton are in control. They're not going to get burnt, and if it goes the other way, it's something they can get at. So who knows? But I think he's an excellent addition, I won't lie, and can play a few different positions. And for that kind of outlay, it's not it's a thing. Sofa score, Adam, Everton's highest rating midfield player, 7.04. Now that'll obviously be with the goals and the assists, of course, but that's not bad, is it? As a cameo to come in and have 7 starts and end up the top rated players. So I think that again reiterates a little pinch of salt, because this is real things, touches, passes and everything. If who's to say that that's not the correct way to score a game? I don't know, but that's what they had. The one other player
he was the only player unaffected by the other thing in the season. So
he was, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
play with his head up.
He's the only player.
He never got a minute under the other one. I've got Harrison Armstrong in there as well, simply because he played in midfield and we didn't have loads. He had 3 substitute appearances. No goals, no assists. Wouldn't expect it. His longest game was obviously the half at Bournemouth, which he was bright.
Well, he's man of the match in the FA Cup.
FA Cup, very good, yeah. But obviously, this is just Premier League off there. He had a couple, the FA Cup, he had an assist in it, didn't he, for Beton, was brilliant. But so for score rating 6.3 for the, which is not bad for sub appearances, really.
Well, lots of promise and.
But he went off to Derby. His rating at Derby's over 7, I think, 7 something, and he done really well at Derby. I think he had 16 appearances, and the Prem started 15 of them, and they're desperate to keep him. Signed a new deal, of course, at Everton. What have you made of what you've seen of him? Because obviously you've seen little pockets, but the FA Cup game against Peterborough, he was very good. But what if he looks like?
Delighted he went on loan, if I'm honest. He looked good against Peterborough, and that's what loads of people would have been clamouring for him. He obviously come on against Bournemouth for half time, wasn't he? Like, Dyche coming, like, I do this.
Well, one of his other Everton appearances was at 4-0 at Tottenham with about a minute to go. He put him on, and
wasn't that to get like I don't know. It broke a record of somewhere, and then Dyche probably went, "Yes, sir, I bring you young players on."
Under Mourinho.
Yeah. No, listen, I think he done well in the cup, and I think he shows a lot of promise. But the most important thing was he was allowed to go out on loan, and Everton made the right decision doing that. And I know at the time there was a few people umming and ahhing about how that had left us, but you've got to make decisions and be firm about them and understand. And football people will. That's the decisions they've got to make, and not enough of those decisions have been made. At Everton, we spoke on the other video about Roman Dixon and him staying at Everton, where he should have gone out on loan as well. Everton should have said, we've got enough players. You go, and they did with Armstrong. They got a good offer for him. They got him a new contract, and they said go and play, and he has played, and he looks like he's grown as a footballer.
And the other thing as well, he obviously their season finished before Everton, and he was given the option to go off on holiday because he just played the season out, and he didn't. He come straight back in and went back to first team training, because obviously for him, he wants to get in the eye of David Moyes and Billy McKinley and train with the first team. So good way. He's gone now and played for England, didn't he? Last week, like both of their.
Yeah, he played 90 minutes in their games against Egypt. They lost one and they won one. Knowledge. Oh, Morocco, not Egypt.
Morocco, yeah.
Just had to make sure, because someone will go, you haven't got knowledge. Lost 2-1, won 3-1.
Played the 180 minutes in
games.
that and looked very good apparently, so there you go. So good for him, and hopefully he comes back strong in the pre-season. The manager's already said he'll go to America, whatever, and then he'll make a decision. So he's going to have at least 5 games, isn't he, to be involved in before Everton make a decision. The pre-season, I imagine, will be 7 games maybe, because we've got a manager who likes to prepare. So we'll see how we go with that. So yeah, let us know what you think. That's the midfield review. What are your thoughts? Who was your player of the year in midfield? And what about Carlos Alcaraz? Impressed with him? Glad Everton got him tied down to a deal. Let us know in the comments section below. Subscribe, like, don't forget. Check out the defence review, which we've already done, and we'll be doing an attacking review, obviously, so watch that as well. See you later.